everyone. Good morning to all of you who tuned in from across the world. Let us know you're here. We appreciate you joining us and the opportunity to share with you this very special Sabbath, this very special seventh day called Shabbat Shuvah, the time of returning, preparing to face the Creator of the universe before Yom Kippur or at Yom Kippur. And this time of rehearsing our judgment seat approach, a time when we will be called before the judgment seat to receive whatever decree He gives to us. We're preparing ourselves. We have a few days. Next Wednesday at sundown, and then all the way through Thursday at sundown, we'll have that 24-hour period to give our account and to appear before the judgment seat of the Holy One, receive His decree, receive His allowance or his rebuke, as the case may be. But in the meantime, we have Parsha Vayelech, and this Parsha is a preparatory message for Yom Kippur, for the days of appearing before our King. And Vayelech means, and he went out. And this is talking about Moshe, and he goes out. This is the 52nd of 54 parshas. You can tell we're getting really close to the end. And this is actually the parsha that begins the sequence of the descriptions of Moses' last day upon planet Earth as a mortal. We're going to have so much activity on this last day of Moshe's life that'll be reminiscent of the first of Nisan in the year after the Passover, after the Exodus, because in that day, on the first of Nisan, the first day of the first month of the year following the Exodus, Moshe was everywhere doing everything. He set up the tabernacle. He prepared everything. He appointed everything with oil. He called forth the Kohanim, the priests, Aaron and his sons, and he anointed them, and he prepared them for what was going to. He set them aside and consecrated them for 7 days after that. And the first day of the first month, it was like Moshe everywhere. How did you get the energy to do that? How did you find that hours in the day, the moments in the day to be able to accomplish that? It will be similar on this day, which the sages say is 7 Adar, the 7th day of the 12th month of the year. Moshe will die on this 7th day of the 12th month. He will be mourned for 30 days. That will put us to the 7th day of Nisan. The third day, the great scriptural concept of the third day will come forth, and then on the third day after the grieving is over, which is the 10th of Nisan, that is when Yehoshua will stand forth and go forward into the promised land. We will cross the Jordan River at that day. And all these things are prophetic, all these things are symbolic and hyperbolic, but yes, they are also factual, historical, inspiring, and true. So what are we talking about? When I say Parsha Vayelech, what is the actual scripture reference? It's Deuteronomy chapter 31, just chapter 31. There are 30 verses in this Parsha. There are 10 segments, 10 sections within those 30 verses. So there's a 10-point outline, as you may say. And so Moshe is going to talk and write and record for us the events, the first of a series of events that takes place on this day of his death. He's going to find out this is the day of his death. He's going then to act as if a person should. He's going to model for us what it should be like to prepare for one's death. And that will prepare us for Yom Kippur and our appointment that we have. So if we get into it, if I may get here. What is so special about this day, this Sabbath? Well, every Sabbath is special. And some people tell me, they argue with me about this, and I don't want to argue with anyone, but they say that Yeshua, Jesus, is my Sabbath. Well, then you don't understand Sabbath very well, and you don't understand Yeshua very well either. Unfortunately, I hate to be rude to you, but the reality is He is the one who takes you into what Sabbath really is. He is like He taught us what adultery really is and how deep it really goes, how much further than the actual action or a murder or divorce. He taught us in Matthew 5 all the details and how deep and the deepest, highest levels of discipline that these things of the Holy One go. Well, so it is with the Sabbath. Yeshua, yes, He teaches us the deeper things of the Sabbath. He does not replace the Sabbath. He does not try to take its place. He tries to teach us the deeper things, to draw from the deeper wells of the Sabbath. So, yes, for all those who will believe and follow and speak well of Yeshua, praise the Lord. He will take you deeper into the Sabbath, not further away. So, here we are on the Sabbath day, the special last Sabbath before Yom Kippur. It is Shabbat Shuvah, the Sabbath of returning. It prepares us for Yom Kippur. It is also the first week of the creation year, the anniversary of the Holy One, Yom Teruah, which began the first of this month, of this moon cycle, was the day on which, by legend, by tradition at least, the Holy One breathed his own Nishmat Hayim, his own life force, into Adam. He picked him up, he held him in face to face, nostrils to nostrils, as the case may be, and he breathed into Adam the precious breath of his own being. And that caused Adam to have a neshama, a eternal soul, as opposed to just being another animal who had just a nephesh, just had flesh and intellect and ability to follow orders and act according to instincts. That's what most animals do. But Adam, on this day, anniversary last week, actually became an eternal being that was now housed temporarily in a physical body. In a physical body that looked like any other physical body, except it had the unique characteristics of a man. And so now there is an eternal being and a temporal being coexisting, dwelling together. Well, at that particular moment, when the two dwelt together in perfect harmony at Yom Teruah, everything was so wonderful. It's Garden of Eden stuff. I mean, this is the fellowship, the interaction, the closeness, the unity between the Holy One and mankind was so glorious, so beautiful, and so flowing. It just happened. It just natural. Because there was a spirit, the eternal spirit in man was responding, and the body was just following along. But then something happened, as you well know, and at a certain stage, the Holy One came looking for Adam, and he says, in the famous poignant line in Hebrew, Ayeka. English, we would translate as best we could, where are you? What happened to you? Who are you? What are you? How are you? Why are you? It was not a question deserving. It was a rhetorical question directed at Adam, and that was the moment. He said, where are you, Adam? Adam, where are you? And it's not about not knowing where he was physically. It was about inquiring, does Adam know where he is? Does Adam know what has happened to him? Does Adam know how unprepared he now is to have this interactive construct with the creator of the universe? Well, that's Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the Holy One is speaking to us on this Shabbat Shuvah saying, Ayeka, do you know where you are? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're all about? Do you know why you're here? Do you know how you got to where you are? Do you know what's happening to you and what you need to be doing? Do you know how to reconnect with me? Do you know how to reconnect with your destiny, with your plan, with the purpose for which you were born, with the mission to which you were assigned, with the grace to which you were given? Do you know how to reconnect? Do you know how to make teshuvah and make the turning? Do you know how to return and reconnect the way Adam did before the other stuff happened? That's our question. And that's this Shabbat. We have this time to set aside without work, without the stresses and the news and the other distractions of bodily, physical, mortal life, the flesh life. To step into the spiritual dimensions and realms of this Sabbath and to begin to take and draw the holiness and the vision and the perspective of the kingdom of heaven and the courts of heaven down into ourselves so we can answer the question. You ask the question, Holy One, Ayeka? Well, this is who we are. This is why we are where we are. This is what happened to us. And this is what we know we now need to do to reconnect with you. Now, this year, these days of Teshuvah, these days of turning and preparing for Yom Kippur and the rehearsal of our death and appearance before the judgment seat. In this particular year, we need to be aware that we are at a heightened level of responsibility. I have, and if you know me very well or have hung around my teachings or me very long personally, you know that I am all about what Yeshua taught, what Moshe taught, calm. Stay calm. Don't be defensive. Don't let the world get to you. Don't let the talking heads, senile people with reading teleprompters, don't get excited about what they say. Don't get excited. Don't get angry about what they spew, what they threaten, what they warn. Don't get excited about. I'm the one who's trying to tell you. Look, we have a higher authority that we report to, that we respond to, and He calls us to calm, and He calls us to be wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. Now, that is my message. That is the message that He has given me to speak. But in these days, I will tell you that we're called to a heightened level of alertness and awareness. We are called to a level of strengthening now that it requires us to learn how to peacefully and yet strongly and powerfully and effectually resist. Resist the adversary. Resist the demonic forces in the earth. Resist the lies, but yet hold on to our shalom. And yet hold on to our wisdom and vision and perspective. And not take it personally and not get personal, not go ad hominem the way they do. They love to go ad hominem. They love to attack. Right now there's a certain group of people in the society that they hate and they want to spew and they want to attack you if you're on this. Don't go ad hominem back at them. Don't take it personally. They're deceived. They're demonic. they're reading cue cards and teleprompters, and that's what they do. So if you understand that, we do need to resist, but we need to resist with wisdom. And we need to resist with patience and perseverance. And we need to do what Moshe is going to talk to Yehoshua and also the children of Israel about, and this is last day on earth. Hazach, be strong, be strengthened, well up with strength. Do not cower in fear. Do not cower in anger. Do not get offended. Do not respond to what they are saying. Stay focused on what you are called to do. Hazach ve'amatz. Stay engaged. Stay focused. Stay directed. Stay distracted on what's going on. Hazak ve'amatz. That's the main theme as Moshe prepares to leave the earth and prepares us all to appear before the Holy One. We have only a short period of time to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. We cannot be distracted by people reading teleprompters. Okay? So in these high holy days, we must cling to life. Haim, et Haim, the highest, ultimate, essential form of life that God created for us, like He did for Adam when He breathed His neshama, His holy internal spirit, into him. We're to cling to that, to cleave to that, to seek it, to pursue it with all of our heart and all of our mind. And we are to cling to that which is good, a fountain, a flowing of overflowing, continually replenishing goodness in the earth. That's what we're called to do. Moshe called us to do this last week. Choose. Uvacharta b'haim. Choose life. V'tov, and good. V'bracha, and blessing. And do not choose your option, which was death. The mavet, the dissolution, the withering, the fire, the falling into insignificance, like an animal dies. Don't choose that. Don't choose the ra. Don't choose the self-obsession that causes you to go inward as opposed to being a fountain of good. Don't choose this self-interest, self-preservation, self-expression mindset that the world throws at you and tells you is your highest and best. Don't choose self-actualization as your goal. What your goal is to rid yourself of self. What your goal is to embrace the neshama, to embrace the Spirit of the living God, to embrace His energy, His power, His mission, His vision, His peace, His joy, His love for mankind, and get caught up in the great swell of that mission. That's your purpose. And so in this time we're trying to cling to Et Haim, life, and Tov, good, and Bracha, blessing. Per the covenant, as it's defined by the covenant, the Brit. But in this day, the reason we have to say Chazak v'amatz, be strong and stay focused and stay directed on what the activities are. Don't let yourself be distracted. The reason we do that is because there is a fountain of Ra going out in the world. Negativity is being broadcast, and it is getting very, very serious. Once they say it's okay to take a life, it's okay to take your life. Once they say it's okay to take an infant in the womb, a helpless infant in the womb, then they say it's okay to take your livelihood, it's okay to take your health, it's okay to take your income, it's okay to take your bank account, your 401k or your savings account, it's okay to take your children, it's okay to take your home, it's okay to take your property, and it's okay to take your life, because once they go down that road of saying it's okay to kill one child, it's okay to kill anybody. Well, this is the message. So there's this empowered and strengthened, demonically focused incentive on the part of the people of the world at this era. And we are called to live here. We were designed, we were chosen to be in this day. We shouldn't be frustrated and angry. We shouldn't blame anybody or the Holy One or our parents because we're here at this particular stage. This was the plan all along. If He put us here, He will take us through. He will hazak us. He will amatz us. And we will be His witnesses. We will be His testimony. But we have to stay focused, and we have to stay calm, and we have to stay wise and stay away from personal attacks and ad hominem responses and reactions to what people do. And we need not to ever succumb to the lies, the reasoning, the logic, the science, the medicine, the philosophy, the education system, the information system, the news that they broadcast, which is all a part of the negativity, the Ra, and the Mavet of this life. So, there is a torrent being released right now, and we must stand against the torrent, but we must do so not because we take it personally and are angry. We must do so because this is who we are. This is the calling that we have, and the mission that we have is to stand and show the world there can be a stand taken in calmness, in peace, in goodness, in mercy against all the forces of evil of this world. So in times like the present, it is imperative for people of the covenant like us. We are people of the covenant, I hope. It is imperative for people of the covenant like us not only to know and walk in the peaceful paths of the Torah, but it is also imperative in this era, in this season in which we live, for us to know and keep in the forefront of our minds at all times and faithfully teach each other and our children the principled and persevering resistance protocols. The principled and persevering resistance protocols. What am I talking about? Well, let's look at some examples. Moshe, Moses, principled and persevering resistance. Let's look at Yehoshua and Caleb at the sin of the spies. Do you realize that they could have gone off in an anger tizzy and just quit and left and shown their ignorance and shown their pettiness, but they stated their case strongly. They explained why it was the right thing to do and the proper thing to do and the powerful thing to do. But yet, when the people rejected them and even threatened to stone them to death, what did Yehoshua and Caleb do? They stayed. They stayed for 40 years, patiently waiting, knowing that somewhere down the road, understanding in calmness and in perseverance and in patience, that they would continue to resist until a new generation arose. that would actually perceive, respond to it. So the principled and persevering resistance movement needs to arise. And it needs to be like unto Yehoshua and Caleb. Not a war. We're not starting a rebellion. We're not starting a revolution. We're preparing for the kingdom. We're preparing for the coming of the kingdom, and we're keeping the vision on the coming of the king and his kingdom. Another example, David. This is where David, let's picture him with Goliath. David did not merely stand against Goliath. He understood what it was going to take to defeat Goliath, and part of that involved making Goliath very, very mad. Don't do it in anger. Don't try to make people angry in anger. Do it as a strategic method to understand that certain things you will need to say. David said this. I don't recommend this as the language unless the Holy One puts it in your mouth. You uncircumcised Philistine. I don't recommend that language. I don't think that's the appropriate thing he's going to tell you to say in this particular day. However, in this particular case, it was exactly what Goliath needed to hear. He was at the point locked in anger, and he was not prepared for what he was about to face. And a great, huge man with much more skill and ability to fight fell like a stone with a little smooth stone fired from a sling, from a little 17-year-old boy. The kingdom comes because we know what to say, when to say it, and we don't say more than we need to say, and we don't say something different than we need to say. We don't try to pacify, but we also understand that all we do must be strategic and must be designed for a purpose. And then, of course, I will refer you to the next level of resistance, persevering and principled, peaceful resistance. And sometimes it doesn't seem so peaceful at all. The books of the Maccabees, and I'm talking about Mattathias of Modin. I'm talking about Eleazar, the aged one. I'm talking about Hannah and her 7 sons who were taught well these ideas of how to respond, how to persevere in principled resistance. Now, I won't recite those stories for you. I hope you know them. And if you don't know them, I hope you will spend some time reading. I'll recite the names for you again in case you're not familiar with the books of Maccabees. Mattathias, Eleazar, the aged, the graybeard, the old one, the elder, and Hannah and her 7 sons. I just recommend that to you because you need to know and teach your children and encourage one another with the stories of principled, peaceful, and yet persevering resistance. As the Master Yeshua himself taught us, spoke 7 times to reiterate and clarify it, to him who overcomes, I will give. Beloved, if we know anything at all about the neshama, about the Spirit of the living God within us, if we know anything about our purpose, it is to become overcomers. Resistors must precede overcomers. You cannot overcome unless you resist. But you must resist wisely. And you must resist in every way with principle, with the spiritual guidance of the Holy One. So, to him who overcomes, I will give. What does that have to do with Vayelech, with the Parsha Vayelech? Well, we'll talk about that, hopefully. Vayelech, Moshe's last day on earth. I call this the Parsha of passing the baton, of delivering the scrolls, and of teaching Israel to sing prophetic songs. Of passing the baton, of teaching Israel to sing prophetically, and of delivering of the scrolls to the next generation. Predominant themes of this week's Parsha, these 30 verses, these 10 segments of these that are close to 30 verses, are be strong, be strengthened, be persevering and diligent and alert and sober, and be more so than your adversary is. Comparatively, be very, very diligent and very, very sober. That's the first thing. Have no fear. Lo tira in Hebrew. And I want to speak this message because it's the message of Moshe on his last day. Over and over again, he said and will say, Lo tira. Do not accept fear. Do not accept worry or anxiety or anything that is a fleshly response to things that you see happening or you think you see happening or people are talking to you about and you hear spoken. Do not respond in your flesh with worry, anxiety, or fear to anything you see or hear in this world. Lo tira. There is a reason to lo tira because yara, fear, anxiety, and worry drive you away from the presence. Tell the world you are not in the presence of the creator of the universe. Every second, you tremble in fear or worry and shake in anxiety. You tell the world, I know not God. I am not with him. He is not with me. I'm doing my own thing. I might believe in him, but I'm not with him. Because if I were with him, you would be lo tira. You would have perfect confidence and faith in who he was. Now, this is the challenge. First theme of Parsha Vayalech is be strong and lo tira, no fear. The second thing is treasure and cherish the revelation stream that is represented by these scrolls, by these Hebrew words on this Hebrew scrolls of the Torah. This is your life. This is the keys to teaching you how to navigate the trials and the struggles of this world and the people standing behind microphones reading teleprompters, threatening you with all sorts of stuff. Stand strong in the scroll and in the letters on the scroll and in the words that are on the scroll. They are your life. The third theme is learn to sing. I don't mean you need to carry a tune in a bucket, but I do mean this. You need to have a lilting melody rising within your spirit at all times. That's what happens in the heavenly realm. If we want heaven to come to earth, on earth as it is in heaven, I think the book of Revelation tells you pretty clearly what the sounds of heaven are. They're the songs of praise, the songs of adoration. They're the sounds of adulation, exaltation, flowing, a recognition of who he is and all he has done and will do. A patience and a confidence in what he can do and what he will do. Have a song in your heart. This is the third of the themes. And then let it out of your mouth. Don't go and repeat the negative phrases of the world. Don't even repeat the negative phrases of religion. Keep the song of the Holy One and his praise in your mouth, not in some sort of arrogant fashion or some sort of childish fashion. Talk about it as if you know it, because you do. As if you're there in the heavenly realms, singing, hearing, feeling what the four living creatures and the 24 elders and the cherubim and the seraphim and the angels and the saints of all the ages are singing, because they have knowledge of what they're talking about. They have relationship and they have experience that they can draw upon, and out of all of that, and that will bring them this sense of exuberance that they can sing this song. That will be your victory. That will be your weaponry. That will be your way of overcoming. Now as I said, there are basically 30 verses in this parsha, and they are divided into like 10 sections. The first thing that you get is verses 1 through 6, excuse me. Verses 1 through 6 will be what I call Moses' final download of Devarim. This whole book is called Devarim, or we translate it as words, but it's weighty words that he throws out there, and they mean more than any dictionary could ever tell you. First of all, they're consisting of Hebrew letters which have divine energy in them, life forces in them. Second of all, as they're related to them, they carry memory and prophecy in every word. And so he's going to give his last download of Devarim to the people of Israel. He's going to start with Yehoshua, Joshua, and he's going to go to the elders, to the priests, and then to the individuals, and he's going to go to all the tribes. So this is Moshe's final download of Devarim for his life. the last day of his life. And it starts out by saying, Vayelech Moshe veyadaber hadevarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael. We translate it usually in English as, and Moshe went out. And Moshe went out, and he spoke these devarim, these words, these powerful heaven energy pods in the hearing of all Israel. Well, that's how it starts. So you can see we're going to have, everything else is going to flow out of that message. Everything we're going to read, everything we're going to talk about today is this empowering, energizing force that Moshe is releasing the last day of his life that we are going to keep receiving generation after generation after generation. Life and bloodline after bloodline all the way through the history of man. Moshe's final devarim begins with Vayalech Moshe Vayadabar Hadevarim Ha'ele. Now, the next thing he's going to do is he's going to hand the baton to Yehoshua. Moshe has been told that he is not going to lead the people into Bnei Israel. One reason, there are many reasons, and of course the Torah gives the reason of what happened at Meribah and how Moshe, in the public eye, in front of all the people, dishonored the Holy One by claiming the right to bring water from the rock by himself, and then disobeying directly the directive to speak, to let his mouth be the mouthpiece, and use force. Tried to use force to cause something to come forth, and not graduate to the next level. So there's the reason that the Torah refers to. But if you think about it, what has Moshe never done? He's never led the people in a battle. Yehoshua is the only one who's done that. Moshe can lead the people through the wilderness. He can lead them out of Egypt. He can lead them through the wilderness. But they need someone they can trust to stand in strength, to stand in principled resistance, to stand in perseverance. And so Yehoshua is the one chosen from before the foundation of the world to take them in. So Moshe knows he's not going to take the people in. He's not going to lead the people in. And he's not upset about it. He's not angry. He asked the Holy One to have it the decree changed. He realized the Holy One's will is better than his will. The Holy One's plan is better than his plan. So he quit taking it personally, and he quit. So now the issue is not whether it should have happened or shouldn't have happened, or whether he deserved it or didn't deserve it. That's ad hominem. That's personal. He said, this is not personal. This is kingdom. So for the sake of kingdom, I'm just going to be honest to you. I'm not taking you in. But Yehoshua is. You're going in. The people are going to be going into the land, but Yehoshua will be the one who leads you. And so he's going to take Yehoshua and he's going to pass the baton of leadership to Yehoshua. And this is when he's going to tell Yehoshua, Hazak ve'amatz. Hazak ve'amatz. Be strong. In English we read in very courageous, but it's focused, sober, undistractable, unshakable in this process. So the third section then, is when Moshe is going to write and deliver the scroll of Torah. He's going to do this twice. This section, or this part of the section, the third segment of Parsha Vayelech, Moshe is going to take these beautiful words that he has written down, the words he has recorded faithfully according to what was told to him by the Creator of the universe for 40 years. He's going to take these words and he's going to put them on a scroll, and he's going to hand them to the priests and to the elders of Israel. Now, the question becomes, how many copies of this scroll did he write? Because, we know there's Eleazar and Itamar and Pinechas. So we know there are 3 operative priests, but we know there have to be 4. Why do we know there have to be 4? Because it takes 4 priests to carry the ark. So there's another one. There's at least 4. So there's at least 4 priests. Do each one get a copy of this Torah scroll? But at least we give one for them. And one for the Ziknei, the elders, the graybeards. How many graybeards are there? Well, the oldest graybeards are going to be Yehoshua and Caleb, right? Caleb and Joshua, because they're the ones who've got more than 40 years worth of experience, and they're the only ones in the entire bunch that have that. But among them, we have the 70 leaders, the 70 elders that have been appointed. So that would be 72, unless Jehoshua and Caleb were part of the Sanhedrin, part of the 70. So how busy was Moshe this day? We could sit and write a Torah scroll. We could write a scroll of the 5 books of Torah and take all of our life to do it. But supernaturally, in the Spirit of the Holy One, for some 1, 2, however many he wrote. We know he wrote 2, because we're going to see the one later. And he takes this scroll and impassioned. Can you imagine what it was like for him to take this scroll and take it and put it in the hands of somebody else, knowing he could never add to it, knowing he could never take away from it, knowing he could never edit it, he could never correct it? This was the end. It was his revelation that God had given to him, and now he was passing it on forever without any. Imagine you're an artist and you've painted a masterpiece which is never finished, but you have to finish it and put it up for the public display. That's what Moshe did. This was to the priest and to the elders. And then we're going to see Moshe do something that he's not really done before. He is going to give a mitzvah. He is going to decree a mitzvah. He is going to say that now that I've given you this, every 7 years, on the Feast of Sukkot, in every 7th year that happens to be a Shemitah, one of the years of release, as you begin every new cycle of freedom, that is also a cycle of responsibility in the kingdom. Every time you begin this cycle afresh, and everyone returns and gets free of their debts and has a new fresh start, every time you get a new fresh start, I want you to gather all people together. Call all the people together, the men of Israel, the women of Israel, their wives, little bitty children, not just their sons and daughters who are grown, their little bitty children, bring them as well. And bring the foreigner who is near your gates. Bring them all in. Bring them all every 7th year at the Feast of Sukkot, in this year of Shemitah, and bring them and read the Torah from first word of Bereshit all the way through the end of Deuteronomy. Read the Torah to them out loud. You say, boy, my kids wouldn't put up with that. Strangers that I know wouldn't put up with that. That's because they have never perhaps heard the actual living, powerful, energetic words of the Holy One. When you hear him speak, you don't want to go and do something else. When you hear the real, legitimate voice of the Holy One speaking through Devarim, it's not like words or preaching or stuff like that, or messages or teaching. It's not like that. And that's what Moshe wants. He wants every generation, every family, even the foreigners who are anywhere close to us, to be able to hear the powerful thing that they heard on Mount Sinai. The same quality, the same power, the same energy, the same empowerment in that voice. So he says, every 7 years, I want you to do that. The Holy One didn't tell him to do that as far as we know, but Moshe gave his own mitzvah in that regard. And then the Holy One is going to speak to Moshe. And he's going to say, Hin karavu, behold, approaches, drawing near is your death day. Drawing near is your death. Moshe, this is it. This is it. And he's going to model for us this whole death concept of Yom Kippur. The Holy One makes the Hin Karvu announcement. And then Yehoshua and Moshe are going to share a divine download, a divine encounter. Moshe is going to say, now that Hin Karvu has been announced, I'm dying. I need you to come, Yehoshua. And I gave you my personal encouragement, my exhortation. I want the Holy One to do that to you. And so Moshe and Yehoshua are going to go to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, as we like to call it in English, to this download place, to this portal where heaven touches earth, to this model of what kingdom courtship, being in a kingdom's courts are. He's going to take him there, and he's going to present Yehoshua before the Holy One. And Yehoshua and Moshe are going to share a divine encounter. The Holy One is going to speak. He's going to appear. He's going to manifest himself. And he's going to give Yehoshua the charge that Moshe would like to have given, but Moshe can't give it the way the Holy One did. And so the download will take place. And the Holy One's going to tell Yehoshua the future. And a guy like Yehoshua, who has learned resistance and perseverance and patience, can hear what he had to say. He's going to say things that will shock us. If you're trying to build a ministry, you don't want to hear these words. If you're trying to start a new church or a new assembly or a new Sanhedrin or whatever, if you're trying to start something new, you don't want to hear from the very beginning that people are not going to respond to you and they're going to fall away. And they're not going to be able to hold on to what you give to them. That's what the message is. The message is, you remember 40 years ago, Yehoshua, when you had the message and you gave the message, it's going to be like that the rest of your life. You'll have the message, you'll have the vision, you'll have the clarity, but not everybody will get it. Matter of fact, most people will not get it. You will not be a successful preacher. If that's what you want, you need to get out of the business. What you need to be is a faithful servant. A servant of me, the Holy One would say, and a servant of these people, deserving or not. Thankful, grateful, or not. And so he prepares Yehoshua for rejection. He prepares Yehoshua for what men would consider in ministry failure. He prepares him for all these things, knowing that Yehoshua is the very picture of Yeshua of Nazareth. No one was more rejected. No one looked like more of a failure at one moment, at one stage, than Yeshua of Nazareth. But no one is more victorious, will be more victorious than Yeshua of Nazareth. So he begins teaching Yehoshua to prepare himself for what's coming. Be patient, be persevering, to stay focused, to stay chazak va'amatz. And then he's going to, Moshe is going to become a songwriter. We're going to see him write a shir, a minstrel song, a song sung on a journey by persons in the front and then echoed by or refrained by people behind. Songs of ascent, and like in Hebrew in the Psalms. Songs where one person is singing to inspire the others and focus the others on what's happening, and then to cause others to repeat the phrases and recite the songs themselves. And have their kids do it, and make an event of the song. So he's going to teach Moshe to do this. Now, this is in contrast to the previous song. Moshe sung one song before. He sang a song back at the Song of the Sea, but it was not this kind of song. He sang a spontaneous song that came directly out of heaven, and he didn't write anything, but this time he's actually being encouraged to participate in the process. Moshe didn't write the Song of the Sea. The Holy One and the heavens wrote the Song of the Sea. And their mouths opened, and out it came. And they had no clue what they were going to say next, but it kept coming. It kept coming out of the depths of their neshamas. Well, this is not that. This is psalmistry. Moshe is going to be trained in the Hebrew people, and the people of covenant in all generations are going to be skilled at psalmistry, or you're not going to be able to process the information you receive. Psalmistry is designed to take what you're hearing and seeing and how your emotions are welling up in you by virtue of that, and not process it through your mind, and not process it through conversations with other human beings, not process it through Googling, as we would say today, but processing it through conversation with the Creator of the universe, through getting in touch with the Creator and having you tell Him what you're thinking, and He'll tell you what you should be thinking. And it will be a process. Psalmistry requires you to give up your emotions. And you start out, David sometimes would do this. David was a perfect example. He would start out so angry. He would start out so offended, so maybe frightened, overwhelmed by what's going on in the world. And he would keep talking, not to other people, not to men, to the Creator of the universe Himself, the wise, all-sufficient one, the eternal one, who saw from the end to the beginning and the beginning to the end. And he would talk to Him and speak to Him over, of course, and at the end or the next psalm, quickly he would get to the places, but you are glorious and grand and great, and your will is good, and all things that you do are good and well, and you will be victorious. And this is the way this is the way psalmistry works. It takes, instead of venting, when human beings vent, it is a sure evidence that they are not having psalmistry. Psalmistry is designed to keep you from venting, because venting is the evidence of your weakness to the world, the evidence of your lack of connection to the Creator. So he teaches you not to vent. He teaches you to psalmist, to be the psalmist, to go through this process of processing. So Moshe gives us this perfect first example of psalmistry, and he does that in this parsha. Next week, we'll hear the actual language of this song. Next week in Parsha Azinu, after Yom Kippur, if we're still alive, and I pray we are, then we will come back, and he will teach us the actual phraseology that he wrote, the words that he wrote, that give the prophetic overcoming vision, that instill us with his faith. The next thing he'll do is the Holy One himself will give a charge to Yehoshua. He will speak to him not just about what's going to go wrong, but what it needs to happen in Yehoshua and through Yehoshua for the world to be changed as it's intended to be. And then number 9, the ninth thing that he'll do, he's going to now take his pen or his stylus, and he's going to inscribe yet another Torah scroll. And this one he's going to give to the Levites. And this one's not going to go in the Ark of the Covenant. This one's going to go alongside the Ark of the Covenant and be carried by the Levites. We've had one for the priests and the elders. Now we have one for the Levites. So this is in verses 24 through 29. He's going to give the scroll to the Levites. And he's going to warn the Levites, just like he warned Yehoshua. Boys, you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up so bad. You're going to mess up so bad, people will give up on you and quit on you. And you'll quit on yourself, and you'll want to give up on yourself because of how bad you behave and how bad you respond to the world around you. Don't give up. Don't give up. And so he's going to give them the scroll and the message of inspiration that sounds like you're just going to collapse and fall, but you will rise again. And then finally, Moshe will actually open his mouth and begin to sing. Now, in the Hebrew text, there is no chapter divisions. So he's going to go right into the song, but for our purposes, we stop right here just by saying he opened his mouth to sing his prophetic song, his psalmistry. But we won't do that this week. That will be next week when we actually hear the words in that process. So, let's talk about the final Devarim download, how this chapter begins, how this parsha begins, Vayelech begins. Vayelech Moshe, and he went out. Now, Vayelech is a phrase that we have heard before. We have heard it said with regard to Moshe before. 3 times it said that Vayelech Moshe, and then he went out to pray. So he has a history, he has a pattern of going forth, of movement. If you try to pray in one location, that's why I always encourage people to learn to pray walking or driving, or riding a bicycle. Movement. Movement does so many things in the spirit that sitting still does not do. So I encourage you, move when you pray. And so Moshe, his pattern is to go out to pray. He says this Vayelech, this movement process, is a part of my connection with the Holy One. If you've ever walked in the woods, you know what I mean. Away from the traffic, away from the world, and the breeze blowing in your face, again blowing your hair slightly, the sun maybe shining on your skin, the sound of birds and the whisper of the wind in the trees, the scurrying of squirrels in America, different chimpanzees in South Africa. I remember that. The different things of creation, the streams of water that you walk by, the cloud formations that form in the sky over your head. This movement process is how you connect through creation to your Creator. And so we don't worship creation. But this idea of moving. There's one other reference, prior reference to Moshe going out, Vayelech, in this process. And that was to share with Israel a briefing from the Holy One. And that's more like what we're going to do. He's already been in his prayer mode. And now he's going to go and he's going to share the briefing. The briefing that he shared, that he says Vayelech Moshe, had to do with Numbers 11 and the idea of people complaining, people being fearful they were going to die. This was in Numbers. This was after they left Sinai and there was no water. And the food was getting old, the manna was getting old, and life seemed to be overwhelming to them. And Vayelech Moshe, he went out to encourage them, to tell them what the Holy One was going to do. And he's going to talk to them about manna, and he's going to talk to them about quail, and he's going to talk to them about the salvation, the restoration, the provision of the Holy One. So Vayelech Moshe. What is Moshe saying to you today? What download, what message is he trying to speak into your spirit today? What are your weak places? What are your vulnerable spots? I've already talked about fear and worry and anxiety. I've already talked to you about the inclination to run and to rant. I've already talked to you about some things. I've talked about, in previous weeks, I've talked to you about anger, harboring unforgiveness, and bitterness, and resentment. I've talked to you about arrogance and pride and past. What is he speaking to you? What is Moshe's message to you? If he's Vayelech into your life, if he came to your house, and he's not coming to your house, not in the physical flesh, but his words are coming into your house. His words are coming into your heart right now and into your ears right now. So what is Moshe wanting to say to you before Yom Kippur, before the day of your death? You're rehearsing death and appearing before the judgment seat of the Holy One. What does he want to say to you as you have these moments to prepare? What is it he wants to talk to you about? Vayelech Moshe. And then after Vayelech Moshe, it says, Vayadaber hadevarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael. And he spoke, he said these devarim. He declared these powerful, energetic words over all Israel. Not one or two people, not some leaders. Every single man, woman, child in the connection of Kol Yisrael. So what is he saying to you? What words is he trying to stir up in your heart? He's already placed the words there. What is he trying to cause to buzz and reverberate, to make you focus on, to bring your attention to take your mind off of the stuff you're hearing, off of the people who are saying the stuff you're hearing, off the stuff you're seeing, and off the people who are doing the stuff you're seeing, and put it back where it belongs. What is he trying to awaken in you with Devarim? And what Devarim is he got alive and flowing in you? The next thing is, it says, Ben me'ah ve'ezrim shana anochi hayom. And I am 120 years old today. Moshe is going to tell you, hey, look at me. For a second. The guy who started out a illegal alien. I was contraband. I was supposed to die, either on a birthing stool or be thrown in the Nile before I ever took a breath of life. Before I ever grew up. The enemy, the one with the teleprompter screamed at everybody. Kill them. They don't worthy of living. They're a scourge on humanity. This one, that one, kill them all. He says, look at me. I'm 120 years old. Now he's going to later tell you, not only am I 120 years old, I ain't suffering. My eyes are not dim. My force is not diminished in any rate. I'm as powerful and as energetic because I walk with the Holy One as any man has ever been, as I have ever been. Look at me. First of all, do you understand there is a way, there is a connection with the Holy One that brings you strength way beyond what you may think you may ever have. 120 years old. What are years? One of the Devarim of this parsha, of the Torah, is Shana. Lashana Tova Tiketevu. May your names be inscribed. Lashana Tova Tiketevu. In the book the book of life. Now, this idea of Shana, we translate it as year. But we have a strange vision of year. The Holy One has a vision of Shana, which it doesn't even mean year. It means cycle. It means repetitive process. Seed time and harvest. Moshe says, I've seen 120 seed times. And I've seen 120 harvests. I've seen 120 winters and 120 summers. You understand the difference? We're in the creation cycles. Years are not what the Gregorian calendar tells you they are. Years are what the creator of the universe has designed to bring about certain purposes upon the earth. He's 120 cycles deep into the process of restoration, redemption in this world. How deep are you? How many cycles, how many seed times and harvest have you seen? How many do you think he wants you to see? And what are you doing with those seasons that he's given to you? What are you doing with these seasons? This is the message of Yom Kippur anyway. I gave you the breath of life. I gave you a heartbeat. I gave you physical form and relationships and abilities to influence other people. I gave you a mind to think. I gave you a mouth to speak. What have you done with these gifts? Where are you in regard to the plan that I resigned for you? Where are you at this stage? That's the whole message of Yom Kippur. Where are you? Ayeka. Well, Moshe would say, I've got 120 years. Now, we need to look at those 120 years. The first 40, first 40 were problematic. Second 40 were worse. Second 40 were spent on the backside of nowhere in the desert, tending somebody else's sheep, hiding from the world, hiding from Pharaoh, hiding from the decree of death, thinking his life was over. So content to be nobody and nowhere. Nobody from nowhere. Sorry, that's an old song by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Nobody from nowhere. Excuse me, it's not Bob Seger. That's from Jimmy Buffett, but anyway. Nobody from nowhere. And then something happened. A burning bush took place, and something in the last 40 years, he finished well. Took him some time, but now he's at the end, and he's flourishing at his latest. He's getting better as he goes. He's getting closer to the Holy One and more in tune. So how are we doing with that? How's your shanim? How are your years? How are your cycles going? Where are you in the great? Are you getting closer, or are you out on the backside of the desert hiding? Are you angry and wanting to jump in there and fight about every little old thing like Moshe was the first 40 years? Are you carrying a grudge? Are you carrying a chip on your shoulder about everything? Are you wanting to tell people how they should live and how they should not do this and do that? Are you willing to kill if necessary just to prove that you're right and they're wrong because you're morally superior to them? Is that what that was the first 40 years. Second years, are you willing to just hide and be nobody, just make sure nobody finds you and bothers you and let you live out your life? Is that where you are right now? Or are you engaged? Are you engaged in the creative process? Are you engaged in the redemptive process? Are you engaged in the restorative process? Are you engaged in making tikkun, of making repair of the broken things that God has placed within your sphere of influence, your bloodline, your family past, your family's name, your family future, your children, your grandchildren, the children that haven't been born yet? Are you actively engaged in bringing life into those things? Where are you in the great Shana? I am 120 years old, Moshe is going to say. And let the word Shana ring. How many Shana days have you seen? How many repetitive cycles? And how many do you think you should see? How many do you want to see? And what do you want to do with those whenever you see them? Well, the next phrase he's going to use is Lo ukal od. I will no longer be empowered. Lo yokal od. No longer will I be empowered. I'm not going to be the one who carries you. I'm not going to be the one who gives you the power. This is going to come from some other source. Lo yakal, lo ukal od. And then he's going to go on, Latset velavo. I'm not going to be empowered to go out among you or out in the world. I'm not going to be empowered to come in and make a transition between spheres. I'm not going to go between the heavens and the earth anymore. I'm not going to go between the courts of heaven and the dirt and filth of this camp anymore. I am not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be empowered to do that. My time of empowerment is reaching an end. How about you? How about us? When will your empowerment expire? When will the things the Holy One has ordained for you to do, designed for you to do, and commissioned and directed and told you to do, what is the expiration date on that? How much time do you have left? And what are you going to do with that time? This is his message to us at this particular stage. He says, it's my day's over. My time, my 120 years, I got a lot. But whatever I was going to get done, I've got done and nothing else. Lo, okal, yukal, od, latset, velavo. And then he's going to say these beautiful words, Adonai amar elav. But the Holy One spoke to me. I want my last day on earth to have this testimony of that day. The Holy One spoke to me. On the day of my death, on the day that he desires to take away my empowerment and say, that's all the empowerment you get, I want him to come and speak to me, and I want him to tell me things. I want his word to be what the last voice I hear. I want his voice to be the last thing that reverberates in my soul. Well, that's what it is with Moshe. He says, Adonai amar ele. And he says 5 things. Just like the Torah is 5 messages, so he gives Moshe on his last day 5 words. 5 Devarim. The first one is, Lo ta'avor et hayarden hazeh. You are not going to cross over this Jordan. There's a Jordan. There it is. You stay here. They go. You stay with me. They go with me. So this is the first message. Be at peace with what I decree. Be at peace with what I deem to be in the best interest of my creation, of the ecosystem. Don't take any of this personally. Don't look at this as it's all about you and how you feel about things and how you like things and don't like things. It says just get real. Understand you're part of a grand scheme, and while I love you dearly and will provide for you in every way, there are certain things I decree that you cannot do and certain things you can do. Be at peace with that. So once you get to that stage, think this is the first thing you hear as the Holy One speaking to you on the day he tells you you're about to die. The things that you didn't get done, if they're of the kingdom, they will get done. Take a deep breath. You are no longer the responsible party. But I will call those who will do what will need to be done. Don't have regrets. Don't have anxieties. Don't have senses of failure that you didn't get done. Didn't tell the people what you should have said to them. Didn't repent when you should have repented. Didn't clear up when you should have cleared up. Didn't testify what you should have testified. Don't you dare take any offense at that or take any personal regret about that. I've given you every day you needed, and what you didn't get done that needed to be done will be done by someone else in the kingdom. Rest in me. Rest in me. Rest in me. Now the next thing he says, verse 1, language 1. The second thing is, he says, this is the words of the Holy One to him that day, the Devarim of that day. Adonai Eloheka hu over lefanecha. Adonai Eloheka, the Holy One, your God. Over will pass over before their faces. Before I will go myself and do and accomplish what needs to be accomplished. The people that you've led, the people you care about, the people you love will be taken where they need to go by me personally. It's Pretty good assurance in that process. The third thing he says is, Hu yashmid et hagoyim ha'ele milfaneka. And the Holy One, your God, will dispose of, will dispatch, will remove that which you see right now that's so scary to you. What was scary? The goyim, the nations, the powerful ones who were in control of the land, the ones who seemed to have everything, the ones behind the teleprompters. He says, I am personally going to take care of them. Each one of them. Adonai Eloheka over lefanecha. And you or your seed will see it with their own eyes. This is a promise. This is a guarantee. They don't win this battle. Restoration and redemption takes place. Now, that's the third message. The fourth message is veristam. One word, veristam. That's a combination phrase, and it means that your seed, the people who are going in place of you, will take possession. The meek will inherit the earth, Yeshua would say it. This is the promise. He promises that everything that they seem to be in control of, they will lose control over. They will overstep. They will fall. They will fail. Not because you found an army and fought against them, because I will drive them out before your eyes. Cause them to fall. Then the fifth of the 5 words, Devarim, is Yehoshua hu over lefaneka ka asher diber Adonai. And Joshua will cross over. Joshua will cross over. If you want to substitute the word Yeshua, the name Yeshua will cross over. We'll make this transition. We'll make this transformation take place. Asher diber, exactly according to the words of the Holy One. Now, I told you that Moshe is speaking Devarim, and the Holy One speaking Devarim to him. Ka asher diber Adonai. Ka asher diber Adonai. Does that mean anything to anybody? Is that a word from anybody? Has anyone heard that before? Ka asher diber Adonai. Yeah, you have. When the tabernacle was being built, when the individual pieces were being knit together, when the whole thing was being constructed, when the whole thing was dedicated, whenever the Holy One came and filled it, what were the words we heard 22 times? Ka'asher diber, exactly as the Holy One said. He's testifying to his faithfulness, to his exactitude, to his complete assurance that everything that the Holy One has designed will take place, and heaven will touch earth, and heaven will fill the earth, and the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Holy One, just like the waters cover the sea in exactitude, in perfection, exactly as the Holy One has said. Ka'asher diber Adonai. Now, if we have this assurance going out, maybe we can build confidence in other people. Maybe then we can actually have a way of resisting the adversary, resisting his lies, resisting his threats, resisting his provocations, in patience, in perseverance, in shalom, inner, and to much extent as possible, outer, in joy, in hope, and in complete overcoming success. Maybe if we have these assurances, these alive, vibrating, interactive words, these Devarim, active in our hearts, Asher diber Adonai, then perhaps we can be able to do this thing much better than we thought. Next thing is going to happen on this 5th day is that it's going to say, Va'asa Adonai lachem ka'asher asa le'sikon ul'ag. English. And the Holy One will make of them, do unto them, exactly what he did to Sihon and Og. The kings of the Amorites. Remember them. Remember how they came out with their threats and their weapons and their armaments and their desire to destroy you and push you into the sea. Remember how they were going to kill you and make a holocaust and make a genocide. Remember how that was their plan and that was their strategy, and they actually began to attack you. Remember, it didn't just go away because they said it. It happened. They attacked you. But remember what happened when they attacked you. Remember how it ended. And the Holy One will do to the people who you see in the latter days, people who rise up against you, just as he did to Sihon, just exactly as he did to Og. He said, I want you to remember these stories. These are like Devarim. The names should mean something to you. Not that you should be arrogant, not that you should be proud, but you should be confident and assured. The Holy One, your God, took care of Sihon. He took care of Og. He took care of Pharaoh. He took care of Amalek. He's not afraid of somebody behind, some senile person behind a teleprompter. He's not backing down. He's not in any way threatened by him or by his ilk or by his handlers or by the masses who try to follow him. Do you understand this? As he did unto Sihon and as he did unto Og. You don't have to do it. You shouldn't do it. It's not your job. It would be a desecration of the name of the Holy One for you to try to do it yourself. He will do it. That's his promise. That's his assurance. And so he says, I will do unto them, the Holy One your God will do unto them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land, and everything they have will be dispossessed. Everything they threaten will be brought to naught. All of it. And so he's going to be dispatched. And the next thing he says is, Unetanam, Adonai livnekim. And in other words, I'm going to give them away before your eyes. And I'm going to do to them according to all things. You are to do to them according to all things that I've told you. And then he's going to use the phrase for Moshe and for Israel. I called it, as Moshe spoke it to Yehoshua, it was Hamatz v'amatz. Hazak v'amatz. Be strong and be focused and dedicated and do not be distracted. Strong and courageous. What do you do with courage is the question. Stay focused on the plan. Stay focused on the mission. So he spoke it to them as Hazak. But this is now from the standpoint of talking of someone else. And so he says to them, he says, Hitsu v'imitsu. Same verbs, just used with a different text. Now, what does it mean to be strong, Hazak? Hazak means to be strong, but in a certain way. As being tightly bound. Picture a tent. You're putting up a tent, you're putting up the guy wires. You're drilling in the pegs, putting in the pegs, and you're trying to attach the guy wires, the ropes, the tethers, to hold the tent up. And you don't really do it very tight. You just kind of throw it up there and you have half of a slip knot. And when the wind blows and the rain comes, the tent falls down. That's not Hazak. Hazak is when you tighten that thing down really tight and where it won't budge and it won't move and it will withstand the rain and the wind and the flood. It sounds almost like something Yeshua might say. He said that's what Hazak. Hazak means tie yourself down. Tie yourself tightly. To what? To the foundation. To the foundations. The foundations of me, of the Creator of myself. The foundations of your patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. The foundations of the Torah. The foundations of the covenant. The foundations of David, the psalmistry. The foundations of Solomon, the wisdom. The foundations of the prophets, the inspiration and the insight into what's really going to happen. The foundations of Yeshua, the strongest foundation of all. Tie yourself, bind yourself to that. Hazak. He's ku. You bind yourself to it and bind others with you. Strengthen other people with you. Strengthen other people with you, binding you to the Torah, binding you to the prophets, binding you to the patriarchs, binding you to the psalmist, binding you to Yeshua, binding you to his wisdom and his goodness and his patience and his promises. Binding to, that's Hazak. Now the second thing he said is imsu. The imsu, or amatz as the verb. What does amatz mean? It means, in comparison to the rest of the world, be alert and sober and focused and indistractable. Don't let yourself get distracted by your flesh. Don't let yourself get distracted by your pseudo-intellect, what you think you know, what you're hearing going about, the phrases and the terms that the world is speaking, the society speak, or the newspeak of the culture that you're in. Don't get yourself distracted by that. Don't repeat their phrases. Don't use their terms. You are instead focused upon the devarim, the energy, the empowered words of the Creator of the universe. Don't fall into the trap of just talking about the same stuff the world's talking about, using the same terms and vocabulary it uses. They have targeted vocabulary. They have targeted phrases designed to stir up your emotions, to stir up your pseudo-intellect, and cause you to be distracted. You must stay focused on what the Holy One has said, not what people are saying or what phrases they've used to describe what they want to say. So he says, va'amatz, v'chazak va'amatz, v'kisu, v'hisku v'imitzu. And now he says, al tiru. Now, don't fear. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. Don't get anxious. Don't cave in to anxiety or worry or fear. We need to understand what this is, what fear is. If you don't understand what fear is, you will always be anxious. You will always be prone to worry, and you will always be prone to terror or paranoia or some form of fear. If you are prone to those things, listen very carefully. Because the Holy One wants you to get this lo tira'u, or lo tira, depending on who's talking to whom. He wants you to get this understood. Fear, anxiety, worry, and the like. All of these things are a flesh reaction to what you are seeing with your eyes or what you're hearing with your ears. It is not neshama, it is nefesh. It is not the spirit, the eternal spirit functioning. It never is. The spirit is never afraid. The spirit is never anxious, and the spirit is never worried. Only your flesh can have those feelings. Only your flesh can respond in those ways. And so he says, now, whenever you get focused, whenever you strengthen yourself and you bind yourself to the Holy One, to His words, to His Messiah, then you learn to overcome and resist and fight off the fear, the anxiety, and the worry. You begin to smell it when it gets close. If you wait till it gets upon you and try to throw it off, you're in trouble. If you wait till you've already gone 4 miles down the road, it's going to be hard to get back. So he's going to teach you how to learn to smell fear in yourself. Smell the first inclinations of worry. And say, no, not today. That is not my portion. That is not my spirit. And then reconnect with the things. Reconnect with the foundation. Reconnect with the guy wire. Reconnect with the tent peg. Reconnect with that which is real. Because those things have no fear. That's the challenge. So for all those who are prone to fear or anxiety or worry, and the world is trying to get you there. The news is trying to get you there. The education systems, the medical systems, the science systems are trying to get you to fear because they can control you if they cause you to fear or worry or be anxious. They'll tell you they'll take away stuff you think you need to have. They'll tell you they'll take away your income. They'll take away your Social Security. They'll take away your Medicare. They'll take away your employment. They'll take away your bank account. They'll tell you they'll take away everything you think you need. They'll take away your house. They'll take away your clothes. They'll take away your car. They'll take away your ability to drive or travel. They'll take away all these things. And they'll make you worry. That's the whole idea. That's the whole plan. They'll tell you you're going to die of some disease. They'll tell you have no hope, but you have to take what they give you. That doesn't help you anyway. Or anybody else. He said, now, you need to learn, these are the techniques of the adversary. You need to not get upset and angry at what they do. That's who they are. That's all they know. But we have a different way. We have a better way of approaching things. And whenever we smell fear coming on us, or we understand that's what they're trying to inject into us, we peacefully but perseveringly and steadfastly resist and say no. Some may trust in horses. Some may trust in chariots. Some may trust in, you fill in the blank, whatever they're speaking to you about today. We will trust in the name, the character, the attributes, the ways of our God. That's our foundation. That's our strength. That's our hope. And that is all we need. His promises are enough for us, and His ways are better than the ways of the world. So we will get the idea of Al-Tiru. Do you know now, understand why fear is not ever going to be of God, and worry and anxiety are never something you need to embrace. And you need to resist with everything, every ounce, and you need to encourage one another to do the same thing. Encourage one another not to fall into worry or anxiety or fear or paranoia in any regard. All right. And he's going to say, Ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'olech imach. For the Holy One, your God, will walk with you, will go with you. Now, I have mentioned, usually in connection with the stories of Joseph, which is one of the key stories of the Torah, the messages of the Torah, the whole story of Joseph is there. But in connection with it, I introduced this term called the witness factor. You've heard of the witness. Can I get a witness? But this is the witness factor. Do you know the witness factor? It's kind of hard to be afraid of the man behind the curtain if the God of the creation and the universe is with you. It's kind of hard to take him too seriously, the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings and the Wizard of Oz, to take him too seriously when the voice that spoke creation into existence is talking to you and giving you courage. So he says, understand this, He is with you. He is walking with you. And then he goes on and says, not only is He with you and walking with you, He is ever present with you. It says, Lo yarpeka velo ya'azaveka. In English, we usually read that as, He will not leave you, nor will He forsake you. The two verbs, rapah in Hebrew, the first one is to cast off. He will not ever send you away. He will not let you drop off the table. He will not let you, He just not just forget where you put you. Where did He go? I don't know. Where did Bill go? He won't ever do that. He won't ever lose sight of you, get distracted by other things and worry about other things and not come back to you. He won't ever do that to you. He won't ever let you drop, let you fall through the cracks. He will never forsake you, never leave you. And then the next thing is azab, and it means when a beast when a horse, let's just use the horse or a donkey or whatever that you ride, at the end of the trip, you go outside and you take the saddle off, and hopefully you'll brush the horse down or the donkey down and speak to it kindly or whatever. But at the end you pop it on the rear and say, "Go, you're gone. Get out of here. I don't want to see you the rest of the day. You go do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do." He says, the Holy One is never going to do that to you. He's never going to say, "You do your thing, and I'll do my thing." He's never going to say, you are no longer part of my mission. You are no longer part of my task. You are no longer part of what we're doing. We're doing this together, and we will do this together as long as you have breath in you. No lo azab. Okay, so He will not let you slip through the cracks or fall away or be forgotten. He will never let you become irrelevant to His plan. Just sort of done, used up, forgotten. You're always engaged. You always will be engaged. There are many more things in this parsha. I want to talk just finally to conclude this discussion with the idea of the song. We'll be talking about it much more next week, and we will have, Holy One willing, plans laid so far indicate that if all goes well, we will have a very special guest next week, next Shabbat. You've seen him before. You've missed him for about a year, but God willing, the Holy One willing, we will be together again on this table next week at this time. And we will be talking about this idea of prophetic psalmistry, prophetic song. Have you ever gotten a song stuck in your head? I mean, half the time because I have a grandchild or a series of grandchildren. Put your right foot in, put your right foot out. I get songs stuck in my head half the time because I have a son who has a band and they sing rock and roll. A cover band that does rock and roll. And among the songs he sings is, "Well, I never been to Spain." That song is so addictive. Now, if you ever had a song stuck in your head and you went to bed, you tried to go to sleep or you tried to think of something else, and it just kept coming back and coming back and coming back, now you understand the idea of the prophetic song. That's on an earthly, fleshly level. In the spiritual realm, he wants you to have songs that are stuck in your spiritual understanding. Songs that go through and aren't like, oh, it's so sweet and so wonderful. I remember back in my day, when Hermits. Do-do-do-do, feeling groovy. Da-da-da-da-da-da, feeling groovy. It ain't that kind of song. It's a song that says, life is a challenge, but you are more than up to it. And the Holy One, your God, will more than overcome your deficiencies and will eventually triumph and help you to triumph. And in the end, you will see the wonders and the mercies and the glories of the Holy One. And as I said before, all the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Holy One as the waters cover the sea. And the nations will respond, and they will rejoice along with you. And this is the way. He wants you to have this song forever etched into your spirit and your mind, where whenever you default and you're not thinking about anything on purpose, into the back recesses of your spiritual mind, you will hear the song begin to play again. And though you might have been getting discouraged by what you were seeing on the television or what you're reading on the internet or what you were seeing take place in front of your eyes or in your nation, though you might have been discouraged about all that, when the song begins to play, something wells up within you and a strength begins to happen inside of you. And you begin to say, that's not how this goes, and that's not how this ends. And I am not afraid of the man behind the teleprompter. Well, we will see you next week when my brother Tony joins us again, hopefully, on this podium, at this table, this days. In the meantime, Chazak ve'amatz lo tirah. We will, as Yeshua taught us, pass through this, transcend, and overcome. Amen. See you next week.